Xin chào các bạn, tôi là David. Rất hân hạnh được giới thiệu với các bạn chương trình luyện tập golf từ người mới chơi cho tới người chiến thắng.
Well, you've all been working very hard on your games. Now for the real test, to see if you can take what you've learned out onto the golf course. The golf course is a very different proposition to the practice tee, because out here you've only got one shot. There's all sorts of hazards, there's out of bounds, there's water hazards, there's bunkers and so on and so forth. So it really is a matter of learning how to score, and that's what it's all about now. So I'm going to show you and give you a couple of thoughts how to take your game out onto the golf course. Okay, here we are, the pressure's on. 420 yard par 4, I'm going to take my driver out. But before I go ahead and hit the shot, the thing that you really need to do is assess the situation. Some water hazards down the left, quite a bit of room on the right, so obviously if I'm going to err in any direction, it needs to be to the right. So make sure whatever you do, you sum up the shot before you get down and hit it. That's very important. Remember, we only have one shot at it here. We haven't got all the balls lying down on the tee like we do when we're practicing. So very important to stay really focused on this one shot and to picture in your mind where you want the ball to go. Now I think the big thing that one needs to really work on out on the golf course more than anything, much more than technique, because you don't want to fill your head full of technique, but you do need to have a good what we call routine. This is something you can in actual fact practice on the practice tee. Now a good routine means, apart from assessing the shot, but it means that really what you've got to do is get behind the ball, learn to line up correctly, and have certain mannerisms which you repeat on every shot. It's very much like tennis. You see somebody in tennis serving, and they're always going to be bouncing the ball a similar number of times before they get into their action. See, in golf the ball is stationary, really waiting for us to make the mistake. So what we have to learn to do is to keep in motion, but have these mannerisms which we can repeat and hopefully build a consistent swing. So let me show you the type of routine that I think you should work on, which may really help you when you're playing, because it helps you to get relaxed, helps you to get focused, and hopefully it's going to help you to hit a good shot. Okay, now I'm going to pretty much tee the ball up in the middle of the tee markers here. Right, let's get behind it. I'm going to pick a point out just in front of the ball, because that's easier for me to line up at something just in front. A little piece of grass or a twig or a leaf of something of that nature. It's what we call an intermediate target. Much easier than aiming something way out in the distance. So I pick a spot just in front of the ball. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to walk round looking at that point, aiming my club face at my intermediate target with my feet pretty much together, and then moving my feet in a way that I can then get my ball position correct. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the target, and I'm also going to waggle the club. This is important too. A couple little waggles just to relax the arms. You don't want to stand there stiff and tight and tense. You want to waggle the club and really get into motion. So right, let's go through this now and hit the shot. I love it. Now there we go. Now we're ready to walk up there and play our next shot. See how easy this game is? So my ball is finished nicely just to the right side of the center of the fairway. And looking here, what I've got to try to really assess first of all is how far I've got to the flag. Now from here, judging by the markers, I've got 150 yards to the hole. So for me, into a little bit of a breeze, that would be a 7-iron. You see, the thing that you'll find in working on your game and hitting a lot of consistent shots, you'll start to judge how far you hit each shot. In other words, you'll be able to understand how far you hit a 7-iron, a 6-iron, a 5-iron. And remember I said to you there's about a 10-yard gap in between clubs. So it's very important that you find your distance, because in order to get the ball onto the green with a chance of a putt, say for a birdie, well then you need to know your distances. It's no good hitting it over the back of the green or leaving it way short. Now we can't always hit it the correct distance, but at least you should know really how far on average you hit each club. So now I'm going to take my 7-iron. Now I see a little bit of a breeze blowing left to right. Pin's just sort of forward on the green, maybe favoring the right side. So I'm going to try to picture this shot, and we'll see what we can do. Well, not bad. Now I'm going to go and see if I can get my short game working correctly and knock that putt in. But just before I do that, I want to give you another situation which I'd like you to look at as well. Let's have a look at a slightly different scenario. There's a chance, just a chance, that you might not finish in the middle of the fairway with your tee shot. You might actually end up in the rough. And now what are we going to do about it? In order to score well, the key, I feel, is not wasting shots. So many amateurs get in situations where they waste 2 or 3 shots. I know if I could go around with many golfers and could just advise them which club to take, where to hit it, they'd save many, many shots around. Now let's just suppose this ball finished about here. And I've got a little gap between these trees that I could hook it around and maybe get it somewhere near the green, but it would be a very, very risky shot. Now what I don't want to do is sort of hit the trees and go further into the woods, maybe make an 8 or a 9. What I want to do is cut my losses and maybe just waste maybe 1 shot. And you never know, if I knock it out on the fairway, pitch it out onto the fairway, I might hit a good wedge shot and still be able to make my par. But prudence does pay. The fact is, you want to make sure you get the ball back in play. That's one of the real keys. If most amateurs would learn to do that, instead of trying to hit their career shot, they'd save many, many shots. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a wedge and I'm going to hit it back into play and then see what we can do after that. Right, it might not be the bravest shot to play, but it's certainly the smart play. And remember, smart play saves shots. Good shot. All right, ladies, here's a section you've all been waiting for. I'm joined by my wife, Kelly, and we're going to show you how to play better golf.
Right, David. Millions of women are taking up the game today, and just by watching this tape, they'll be able to really improve their games.
All right, we're ready to get started?
You bet. First of all, I'd like to say that, David, I don't know if you've noticed, but us women, we're built a little differently than men.
No, now that you mention it.
Yeah, first
All right,
of all,
how?
well, basically, we're not as strong, number one.
Right.
And along with the strength we lose, we actually have a lot more flexibility than men.
Okay, that can be a problem. It can be a help, right?
That's for sure.
Okay.
Women tend to be much larger in the hips and narrower in the shoulders.
Right, yeah, men the opposite way around.
That's
right?
correct. And also, hon, we're a little bit different up top.
You mean the brain?
No, I'm talking about the chest area.
Oh, okay, the chest area. Okay, I see. All right, so, well, certainly, I mean, the whole game for ladies is geared around power, okay? Trying to maximize power, trying to maximize club head speed, and to gain more distance, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so now in order to do that, obviously we've got to have maybe a little difference in the swing, a little difference in the setup, and let's talk about the setup first of all right? So where would you propose that they change the setup from what we've already suggested? Remember, on this tape we've already spoken about setup and fundamentals, but there are some slight differences that ladies want to go into, and this is what we're going to describe now to you.
Right. In the address position, it's important to note, having a larger chest area, you need to bow your arms a little bit.
I'm glad you're doing this tape with me. I mean, I don't think I could say that quite as succinctly as you.
Right. Well, by bowing your arms, it really helps a woman be able to swing around their bodies. Granted, if you're in here, you can't really turn very well. So
right, we see a lot of ladies who get very tight with their arms. So, right, so that's a good idea. Get your elbows much more bowed, okay? So, right, now you can swing around your chest.
Correct.
Good, okay. All right, now, that's a good point of address. Now, how about the backswing? Because the backswing is obviously getting coiled, getting wound up is key, isn't it?
Right. The thing is, women tend to be a little too flexible.
Right.
So therefore, their backswings, well, if I can just demonstrate here, by being flexible, your backswing tends to go way too far. I mean, the average gal just gets way back here hoping for more power.
Right, we see this big overswing and they get what we call a tilt.
Right.
So the thing that I like to see a player, what I term move off the ball. So if we can get ladies to move off the ball, why don't you demonstrate that, Kelly?
Okay, sure will. By moving off the ball.
Okay, which means the upper body. It's not, it's not a sway.
Way.
Okay, just don't get that confused with a sway. Right, you can see Kelly's upper body is turned behind her lower body, so her upper body is leaning in this direction. What we see with most ladies, or many ladies, they swing this way. They get this what we call reverse pivot and a long swing and a collapse look, and that is a real power leak. So very important to feel like you're moving off the ball. So why don't you just do that once more, Kelly, and get to the top and stop. Okay,
sure will.
There we go. All right, good. So she's nicely wound up in a coiled position, ready to come down.
Correct.
Right, go ahead and hit a shot.
Okay. By moving off the ball, you also help your balance more. You get a much better weight transfer.
So it's not a case of keeping your head dead still. Because one of the key thoughts, in fact, before I go any further, whatever you ladies do not listen to your husbands, because that's a kiss of death as far as a golf swing is concerned, because all they're going to tell you is keep your head still, dear, and that's probably one of the worst things that you can do, because what Kelly's doing here and moving off the ball, your head can actually move a little to the right. So just demonstrate that once more for us, Kelly.
Okay, sure.
All right, so if your head moves a little off the ball, that's fine, because the important thing is to get the upper body behind the lower body. Now, the other thing which can actually help a lot of ladies, especially if they're very, very flexible, is not to lift the left foot so much. We see a lot of ladies do that, don't we?
That's correct.
If it comes off a little bit, it's fine, but if you start sort of pirouetting on that left toe like you're a ballet dancer, all of a sudden you turn your hips too much, and boy, this overswing really comes into play. And for the most part, if you look at Kelly's swing, it's a nice 3/4 length swing. Watch the length of her swing here. She's going to hit a shot much more of a 3/4 length type swing.
Right, and I'm going to really concentrate on keeping my left foot down. So
that was good.
Definitely get more power when you can resist against yourself.
Very solid. That's exactly right. Okay, so all right, we've spoken about the address position. We've spoken about trying to get turned behind the ball, maybe not lifting the left foot up too much, so getting a little resistance. The other power factor for ladies is definitely in the wrists. And I think we've got a little exercise we can show the ladies how to really improve their wrist action, correct?
Right. There's a very simple drill that we can all learn. You can just take a 9-iron out. A 9-iron is a good club to use. I wouldn't recommend going any higher. But if you take a simple tee and put it in the butt end of the grip,
And choke down a little bit too.
Choke down just slightly so you can really watch the T and watch how it actually goes. T down.
Okay, point that T down.
Right
we
down
have
to the
spoken
ground.
about this, but this really emphasizes the wrist action. It really snaps those wrists in position, because then as Kelly swings through, she's going to uncock those wrists. So she cocks them going back, she uncocks going through, and then watch as she follows through, the T points down once again. So very much like the mini swing that we learned, but ladies really need to emphasize this wrist action and relax your hands on the grip. Don't get too tight. If your hands are tight, your grip tension is too great, it's very difficult for your wrist to work. So really snap those wrists. Let's have a look there, Kelly.
Want me to hit one there?
Yeah, let's hit a couple of shots, just little ones.
Again, you were talking about the pressure of the hands on the grip. It just has to be just so you can't pull it away from my hands. I know people tend to just get too tight with their grip and then they can't let
the club swing, right?
Let the club swing. So T down to T down, and you'll get so much more power using that.
Right. There's a lot of clubs out now on the market for ladies that really do help you. Lighter clubs, more whippy shafts, and that's imperative to maximize your distance. So don't use an old set of your husband's clubs. Get him to buy you a new set.
Right.
All right, let's hit one more there.
Sure.
All right, so T down, snap those wrists. Good. A final thought for as far as the wrist action is concerned, Kelly, I don't mind a lady who doesn't have a lot of power to actually grip it what I call a double-handed or two-handed grip. Sometimes when you get the conventional, what we call overlapping grip as we've described, you don't get enough snap in your wrist. So you might want to try just gripping it two-handed, and it will give you the feeling of your wrist really working back and through. And that's key to maximize your power. So the key is to get turned and wound up and then snap those wrists through. Kelly, I want you to illustrate that in a full swing, and let's talk about maybe some fairway woods that these ladies want to utilize.
Okay, I have a 7-wood here. I think what has been very evident in the last few years is the amount of women players that have gone to using 9-woods and 7-woods and 5-woods. I mean, they've just become a standard in almost every woman's golf bag. Right.
I mean, especially on the tour, you see a lot of ladies, they've taken out their 4-irons and 3-irons, and they're using 9-woods and 7-woods just because they're so much easier to hit. And say, if you haven't got a lot of power, they're much easier and certainly much more forgiving. So a 7-wood and a 9-wood are a great asset.
That's correct.
Right, let's have a look at Kelly's swing here. We'll see it's still a nice 3/4 swing. She's still going to get those wrists snapping, and watch her great balance as she swings back and through. See how she's moving the club at address, not static, nice and relaxed. Well, that's a beautiful shot there. Make it look easy. Huh? You should think of turning pro there, Kel. So ladies, you know, it is a matter of practicing. Basically the fundamentals are the same, man or woman, or man or woman I should say, and the fact is that if you can, say, get that address position a little different with the elbows bowed, make sure you move off the ball, a little bit of resistance, not too much fancy knee work or foot work, and then get that wrist action working, and you'll find that you'll hit a lot of great shots, and so your husbands are going to battle to keep up with you, so you're going to have a lot of fun. So go out and practice this. Remember, when you get on the golf course, don't think too much. That's a good key too, isn't it, for a lot of ladies?
Relax, smile, enjoy it.
Right. And one thing for sure, you remember we spoke about the short game. Well, you want to work on your chipping and putting. It doesn't take a great deal of power in order to have a great short game. So if you want to match the men, you might not match them for distance, but you can certainly match them for feel. So work on that chipping and putting and those bunker shots and those shots around the green, because that'll really help your score. Now, go to work.
Good shot there.
Kelly, you know, the great thing about this game is that you can play it at any age. You can start it when you're young, you can start it when you're old, and you can play with any level of player because they have handicaps. So it's a great game all around. It's a great family sport. What I've noticed a lot in the past few months, few years in actual fact, is that more senior golfers are taking up the game. People who seem to have more time on their hands, probably retired, and really want to get into the game. And I've found that really a few thoughts can really help them play better golf in a shorter time.
That's right, David. When I played the pro-ams on the LPGA Tour, the senior players that I'm playing with, they tend to be very inflexible, almost to the extent they have to muscle the ball. They're unable to make a complete turn.
Right, we see them very stiff. It's almost as if when they swing back, they don't get the club past about this halfway position and they don't have any real weight transfer, and then they try to hit the ball from the top.
That's right, looks just like my partners.
Right. Now, there's a couple of thoughts that you can use if you feel that you're inflexible and are unable to make a turn, because you see the turn is the key ingredient in any good swing. If you don't turn, all you're going to do is use your arms and your hands to hit the ball, and you're not going to get any sort of power and you're not going to get any sort of distance. So Kelly, there's a couple of things that I like to see senior golfers do. And that's to make an adjustment at address, which will allow them then to have a complete backswing. And that's really what we're on about here, having a complete backswing, because the more complete it is, the more speed that you generate. Now, let's show you what I'd like you to do. I want you to take your address position. Normally we'll see with many golfers, they'll get their feet square with their target line, which is absolutely correct, and the ball will be forward. Now what I'm going to suggest you do now is to put the ball back in your stance a little bit more, and to then pull this right foot back in what we call or term a closed stance. Now you want to pull the right foot back a few inches, maybe about 6 inches. Keep the stance fairly narrow, and what this does, it allows the right side of the body, the hips and the shoulders, to get out of the way. In other words, if I can clear the right side of my body, it allows my arms to swing all the way to the top. See, in this position, when the right foot is forward or square, as you swing back, the hips fail to turn, and as a result, you cannot complete the backswing. So we can see here, Kelly, pulling the foot back. The key thought should be, as you start back, to turn your right hip pocket behind you. Okay, so you want to put your wallet in your right hip pocket and get all that money behind you, right? And then complete that backswing and relax that left arm. That's the other key. We see a lot of players who have a very straight left arm. They hear about keep the head still, the left arm straight, and it restricts their motion. So in actual fact, I'd rather see players pull the foot back, turn the right side out of the way, bend that left arm slightly, and even if the head moves a little bit, that's perfectly okay. And the other thing you can see here too, Kelly, is that my knee is pointing behind the ball, and as I turn, it'll probably mean my left heel will come slightly off the ground, which is fine if you lack flexibility. I say this sort of half swing, the foot stays on the ground, the foot's flat, and we are unable to make the backswing. So remember, try this. We want the foot back, we want to turn the right side out of the way, relax that left arm, and then I'm in a position where I can really generate some speed. Now I'm going to tell you a little tip here. Grab your club upside down like this and learn to make a swooshing sound through here. If you don't have a complete backswing, there's really no swoosh, no club head speed. So this little exercise is great. You turn back, you swish through, and it's a great way to warm up. So let's give it a go, Kelly, because if we can get those players looking like this, they'll have no problem getting some distance, right?
Right, okay.
Okay, right, so foot back, ball back slightly, turn, my right hip pocket behind me, and let it go. Now the reason I'm working on this, Kelly, is because in maybe 20, 30 years I'm going to have to do this anyway.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, you could see there your swing was much smoother and more complete. Man, that's really going to help out those senior players.
You're going to get a lot more distance if you can work on those thoughts. So just adjust your thinking just a little bit there, and you'll find that you're going to have more distance and a lot more fun.
Okay, David, those are some good thoughts for senior players, but how about juniors?
Well, the junior golfers obviously is a subject which is close to our hearts there, Kelly, because we have 3 youngsters, and it's fun getting them into the game at a young age. And I think at any age, if you can start them off correctly, you'd be amazed how they'll maintain these good habits for life. So I'm a big fan of trying to get young players into the game early. They're not necessarily going to turn into Tiger Woods, remember that. Just as long as they can go out and have fun and play with the family, it's a great family sport, so get them into the game young. Now, one of the things, Kelly, I think which is often overlooked is the equipment aspect. Many youngsters, they take a set of the clubs that their dad maybe have given them, and the fact is, unfortunately, they're too long, they're too heavy, and create all sorts of bad habits. I've seen many golfers whom I've taught who have habits dating back to when they were young and using equipment which didn't fit them. So, you know, whether you're a lady who needs a lighter, shorter club, or a senior golfer who needs a more flexible shaft, it doesn't really matter, because as you go on in this game, you'll see that you need to get equipment that's suited to you, especially juniors. Now juniors, you can cut a club down, but unfortunately it just makes the shaft too stiff. So you want to find maybe a cheap half set of clubs for the youngster, something that's the right length for them, not too stiff, not too heavy, something they can swing easily.
Right, and very light.
Very light, that's key. Now, kids are great mimickers. You don't need to over-instruct them. I think probably when they get to about 8 or 9, you can take them for some formal lessons. But before that, if you just want to get them into the game, keep your thoughts and keys very, very simple. I know you yourselves might want to think of more detailed technical things, but kids, they don't respond well to that. It's important that they simply stand up there and are able to swing the club. Let them watch good golfers. Let them watch golf on TV. Take them to a golf tournament maybe, because if they can actually watch and learn, they'll pick it up very, very quickly. And now let's go through a couple of thoughts that we give our kids there, Kelly, just to get them going. Nothing detailed, very simple, but something maybe you can help your youngsters with and get them off to a good start.
Okay.
All right? Mm-hmm. Now, with the address position, it's not too dissimilar to what we've spoken about. Maybe their feet nice and narrow. Obviously, normally youngsters are shorter in build and probably slimmer in stature, but so nice, comfortable stance. The grip is something that you don't want to get too detailed on. I would suggest you just simply put one hand below the other to start with until they get comfortable with it. Give them a little feeling of power, because getting too technical with the grip, it's a bit difficult for them to get that right. So just put one hand below the other. That keeps it very easy. All right, now with the swing itself, Kelly, all we try to do, I think this is great advice. If you get the feeling that as you swing the club back, this is what I tell our kids, brush the grass going back and brush it through. So first of all, they can start off making little dinky swings, little mini swings, just brush back and through, Kelly, so they get the feeling of the club coming back and through along the ground. That's it. Right, now to complete that motion, all I would say to them is this, right, brush the grass and swing the club over your right shoulder, and then brush the grass as you follow through and swing the club over your left shoulder. Right, now make sure you brush it now. Brush it going back, right shoulder, and hold the finish. And this is a good thing. Really get them into a nice balanced finish position. Tell them you're going to take a picture of them, put it on the cover of a magazine. So there we go, right. So brush, brush, hold the finish. Let's see here, Kelly. Good. All right, why don't you hit a shot or two? You'll be amazed at what rhythm they'll start to develop. They won't try to hit it. They won't have all these preconceived ideas about the swing. And as soon as they get the ball airborne, they really get excited. Remember, give them easy clubs to hit. You want to get them maybe a fairway wood to start with, maybe a 3-wood or a 4-wood or even a 5-wood, just to help them to get the ball airborne. Well, that looks like a swing of a promising junior there, Kelly.
Thanks, David. You may want to tee up the ball for the junior player. I know it makes it much easier to hit the ball higher, and that will give them much more confidence.
Right, it's nice for them to see the ball getting up in the air. Right, now to summarize with juniors, really it's just a case, get some equipment that fits them. Keep the swing thoughts simple, brush and brush over the right shoulder, over the left shoulder, hold the finish, things like that. Make it really easy. Plus, get them working on their chipping and putting, their short game, because if they can develop a good short game at a young age, they'll have it for life. And a good short game is what all this game's about.
True, that is very, very true.
Above all else though, let them have fun. Don't force them or pressurize them. Say, let them compete with youngsters of similar ages, get them into tournaments if they want to, and maybe get some formal instruction when they're about 8 or 9, something like that. But above all else, remember it's a game for a lifetime, so let them have a lot of fun doing it.
That's right.
Kelly, well I think that's it. I think we've covered just about everything that I can think of. Remember, you're never going to stop learning in this game. This is just a start. Those golfers that are getting into it, those golfers that have got a few problems, you're going to get a lot out of this tape. Watch it and re-watch it, but I'm sure you're going to learn a tremendous amount. I hope you out there really enjoy it, and it really gets you started in this game. For those of you who have slight problems with your game, I'm sure you're going to learn a lot. Remember, you're going to learn more and more as you go on. But this is a great start. I hope you really enjoy watching the tape. Watch it often, and see you on the links.